Welcome back to Mirror's Signal podcast. I'm your host, Josh Holleran, and today we are joined by Olly Tayler from The Honest Truth. In today's episode, Olly will be talking about his past experience and his involvement with The Honest Truth. We also talk about the risks that young drivers face on the roads and how we can help support them in our driving lessons. And that involves talking about how the honest truth is linked to driving lessons and how we can use it as driving instructors. If you're enjoying the episode, please make sure that you hit the like button. You can also leave any thoughts that you've got in the comments. Make sure that you've subscribed to the YouTube channel so that you don't miss any episodes as they go live. If you're currently watching on YouTube, you can also listen to the audio version, and that's available on YouTube Music. For now, we're going to get on with the episode. I hope you all enjoy. Olly, how are you doing?
Hi, Josh. I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, having a chat. I'm looking forward to this one. It's going to be an interesting conversation, I think.
We shall see. Yes, nothing like bigging me up.
Well, there we go. We've set the bar now. Let's see if we can stick with it.
Absolutely.
So, for people that maybe haven't heard of you,
hmm
can you tell me a little bit about you? And then we'll get on to the theme of the episode, the honest truth. So, for anyone that has heard of it, then you're going to hear a little more about it and about Olly. But can we start there? A little bit about you and where you're at
Of
the minute?
course, yeah, absolutely. So, Josh, I retired last year after 30 years policing with Devon and Cornwall Police. Joined very, very young, so hence still young and retired, which is great. It means I come and do things like this. And Did a whole variety of roles across my policing career, from frontline response to neighbourhood policing to specialist operations to training to project management work. But I found my niche in traffic. So I spent nearly half my career in traffic, about 14 years in the traffic department, roads policing traffic. It had various iterations during that time, but what people would call a traffic officer, roads policing team, things like that. And I really found my place in traffic. I really, really enjoyed it. It was a very tough world at times. The way I looked at it was that in traffic, you got all the best toys. We've got the fastest cars, we've got the fastest motorbikes, we've got some amazing courses well, the traffic officer. And then kind of the flip side of that was as a lead investigator for fatal and potential fatal collisions or fatal, serious and fatal collisions. And I knew when I went to traffic, went with my eyes very wide open, that there were going to be things that I was going to see that nobody should ever have to see, but that I had to go and deal with, basically, or go and have to lead investigations on, which I did countless times throughout my traffic career. From very straightforward medical episodes behind the wheel, where somebody has drifted into a hedge at very low speed and has either had a cardiac arrest or something at the wheel, a relatively straightforward job. Any death on the road is absolutely tragic, don't get me wrong, right up to multiple fatalities, people who I then put to court for causing death by dangerous driving, the most serious offence you can commit on the road, and saw people put to prison for those offences, and quite rightly so they should be. Quite early on in my traffic career, I spoke to my boss and I asked him if I could take the portfolio for young drivers. Because traffic supervisors sort of had various portfolios, and I was really keen to have the one for young drivers. For two reasons. I've been to a couple of collisions involving young drivers, and any fatal collision is absolutely tragic. When it involves a young driver or a passenger, that's just compounded because they've got their entire life ahead of them. And often as not, these types of collisions come completely out of the blue to the families. They young their sons and daughters have died in what is often as not pretty horrific circumstances. So I wanted to do what I could to try and support young drivers. And at the time, got two sons, they were early teens, so I knew as well that actually they would be getting to the point where they want to learn to drive in the next sort of 5, 6 years. And what I wanted to do was try and do what I could to make the roads as safe as possible for them, as well as all the other young people that wanted to learn to drive out there. So my boss said that was fine. So he said, yeah, absolutely. Started getting involved in some partnership work around things like some of your listeners may have heard of Learn to Live or Safe Drive Stay Alive, and some of these sort of big theatre type presentations. And I spoke at Learn to Live down here for many years. And then I also got involved in a campaign called The Honest Truth. And that was born out of tragedy. So we can come on to that in a moment, but that just kind of gives you a bit of a flavour. I was also a public order officer for my entire career as well. So public order PC, public order sergeant, public order commander at the very end of my career, deployed all over the country to countless huge operations, GA in Scotland, NATO Summit in Wales, London riots, London Olympics, various visits of dignitaries, G7 in Cornwall, spaceport in Cornwall, and the Queen's funeral as well. So I've had an amazing career on both fronts, both in traffic and in the public order. Public order, for people that aren't aware, riot policing basically. So I think what people would see it as officers with the NATO helmets, the shields, and the batons, and not that we deployed in that particular rig very often. Occasionally we needed to, but a lot more of it was about football matches, protests, big, large-scale public events like things like the Queen's funeral and stuff like that. And I was very fortunate to have worked as a public order officer my entire career, which was amazing. I really enjoyed it. So I've had what you'd probably call a very operationally based career, and I've been frontline operations based for my entire career. My last day as a patrol inspector in South Devon was as operations my first day as a PC at Charles Cross in 1993. And it's been that pretty much my whole career, and that's the way I wanted it. I was never happier than on the front line getting my hands dirty. And never happier. Put me behind the desk, caged animal. Get me out on the front line, quite happy.
That's a hell of a career, isn't it? I think we've got a number of episodes where we could discuss a variety of those things. Well done to you. That's varied, and you seem to have done well. And like you say, you found what you've enjoyed. You can see when you're talking about all of those jobs, it's from a place of kind of you enjoyed it, you liked what you was doing, and I guess you saw the benefits of what was happening there as well.
Absolutely, Josh. Don't get me wrong. There were some very tough times amongst those that 30 years, some properly tough times. But on reflection, and I look back, and having retired, I can look back across my entire career. And on balance, I really enjoyed what I did. I really enjoyed my career. And if I could go back to 1993, I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. I just found my place in policing, and just it was me. It suited me, and I enjoyed what I did. And you take the rough with the smooth, as you do with any job or anything you do. You've got smooth. If you take the rough with the smooth, and you try not to dwell on the rough, and you look at your successes, and there was nothing that gave me greater satisfaction, particularly in traffic, when myself and a team had worked really, really hard to gather the evidence to present to a court, to see a driver who wholly deserved to go to prison go to prison. That's absolutely where that person needs to be for what they've done behind the wheel, and it's our job to put them there. And that was a feeling of satisfaction, not for the family, because their loved one could never be brought back, but satisfaction that the right person has faced justice and now is in the right place to think very carefully for the next however many years, waking up every morning in that 6x8 or whatever it is cell, to dwell on what they did, which resulted in them being there. And it's only as a result of the hard work of those inquiry teams and investigation teams that gets to that result. So there was a lot of satisfaction in that world that I worked in roads policing, but there was an awful lot of misery as well, a lot of misery.
Yeah, it must have been a hell of a challenge for those bad times as well. Like you said, the some of the scenes. I don't think we'll go into that today. That
No, I
you've
wouldn't, Josh. I wouldn't. No, I do talk. I do presentations for ADI associations and conferences and things. You may have seen them, where I do talk about one fatal investigation involving a young driver that I did investigate, and that's about as deep as I'll go into it. I could pick up one of 100, 150, to talk about, but actually, a lot of those people don't need to know the detail, and they wouldn't want to know the detail anymore. That's a small group of people that know the detail of those, and that's where it stays.
absolutely appreciate that. But out of that, you've found, like you said, the honest truth, and you've been working with them. How long has it been that you've been part of the honest truth?
So, The Honest Truth was conceived following a triple fatal road traffic collision in South Devon, about 12, 15 miles from where I'm sat at the moment. Single vehicle, late one evening in July 2009, that resulted in three young lives being lost. A 9-year-old lad, 17-year-old principal passenger, I think the driver was 18, 19-year-old driver. And when the collision was investigated, it was established that it was entirely preventable. A horrific collision. This is now getting on for 15 years since this happened, and the effects of it are still felt in the community where it occurred, because it was quite a very small, rural, close-knit community that it occurred in. And following that, a group of committed professionals got together, not in any formal way, just local authority, community safety, interestingly, fire service, police, and said, look, how on earth can we try and stop something like this happening again? This was just, at the time, it had been one of the worst collisions in Devon and Cornwall for many, many years, particularly compounded the fact it was three young people, just compounded that. And one of these very early meetings, somebody suggested working with driving instructors. Somebody else said, why would we want to work with driving instructors? And we were like, okay, hang on a minute. Well, let's have a talk about this. And the idea of working with driving instructors was that we talked to driving instructors. We talked to some driving instructors, and we understood back then that they, as many driving instructors around the country will be now, is that they're delivering road safety, but actually sometimes they're not entirely sure of the legalities, some of the legislation, which topics to cover, how much depth to go into. Often as not, they were focusing on the pet hate, seatbelts, mobiles, whatever their pet hate was. That was the one that they tended to focus in on. So we said, hang on a minute, look, if we give you some information, would you go and deliver it to your pupils on our behalf? And the ADIs that we spoke to said, of course, I would be delighted, that'd be amazing. They said, okay, well, let's set up a seminar for 25 ADIs in South Devon, get them along, give them a presentation, give them a little Heath Robinson resource pack we put together, and then go away and deliver it to their pupils. Job done. Seminar was set up, 25 ADIs turned up, go have the presentation, took these little resource packs away, end of story, back to the office, tea and biscuits, move on, next project. At least that's what we thought. Didn't quite go like that. So over the next few weeks, more and more ADIs were contacting the Community Safety Office, where the project was kind of being run from. All those involved had full-time day jobs. So we were trying to sneak out for meetings and hiding in cupboards under stairs and coming out of windows so our bosses didn't really know what we were doing. And more and more ADIs were getting in contact and saying, look, we've heard about this, our mates are involved, our mates have this Honest Truth campaign that you're doing. Can we get involved? We said, absolutely, of course you can. And then over the course of kind of 2011, we did another 11 seminars right across Devon and Cornwall, at which point we had about 300 driving instructors across Devon and Cornwall that had all had these resource packs and were delivering the honest truth to their pupils. Called the honest truth because we thought young drivers could handle the truth. They could handle the honest truth about road safety. It was that straightforward. It was one of those things. So we got to this point towards the end of 2011, and we thought, hang on a minute, we've kind of stumbled on something here. There's a real need for this. We had partnerships around the country starting to hear about what we were doing and saying, we would like to get involved in this. We'd like to, for our ADIs to access it. So we said, okay, no problem. So at that time, it was still kind of the Heath Robinson resource pack that we put together. So I sat down in an office with a big sheet of paper on the wall and said, right, how can we reimagine road safety? Let's reimagine it right from the ground up. And the fire officer, who was on the the panel, if you like, on the partnership, still really good friends with him now. A really nice guy. He's fairly long, he's been retired a few years. And he started telling us about when he used to travel when his boys were younger. He used to travel to see grandma, and then he'd mess around in the back of the car, and he would say to them, "Look, boys, stop jumping around in the car. I'm going to have an accident. We're not going to get to grandma's." And the whole meeting stopped. And the whole idea of the animals, which I'm sure some people listening to this may remember, the animal hybrids were born out of that conversation. And we suddenly had this sort of idea of having animal hybrids to represent poor driving behaviour behind the wheel, associated with scrappy catch lines, sort of plays on words, things like that, that weren't preachy, weren't governmental, that young people look at and go, actually, yeah, okay, I can kind of get that. And this is how it ran for a good number of years. And we got more and more ADIs involved, we had more and more partnerships getting involved. And the campaign was very much paper-based. It was, with the various iterations of it over the next sort of few years. And it went through a phase of being a road safety charity. I was redeployed to the front line. I was a road safety partnership sergeant for a while, and I was able to do Honest Truth as part of my full-time job, which was amazing. Then I got redeployed to the front line, and that had to go. Fire officer got was retired and wasn't replaced, and as with anything in the public sector, things change. New bosses come in, different ideas, different priorities, and Honest Truth kind of decision was made what to do with it, and the decision was made to turn it to a charity. And again, that worked okay for a couple of years. I didn't have much involvement at that point. I was more of an ambassador than anything, and sort of getting money for the charity was increasingly difficult. So 2019 came along, and the decision had to be made as to what was going to happen to the Honest Truth. Close it down, go brilliant while it lasted. We're confident we've saved lives throughout the last 9 years, but that's it. Move on to the next thing, or find a home for it. And the decision was made, and the suggestion and the decision that was ultimately made was that it should sit with First Car. So James Evans from First Car, who I'm sure many of your listeners will know, produces the Young Driver Guide, the Parents Guides, the Practical Test magazines, the Theory Test magazines, things like that. And he'd been a really big supporter of the Honest Truth for a good number of years, and it was absolutely the right decision, was to give the Honest Truth in its entirety over to First Car. 2019. Then 2020 came along. And we all know what happened in 2020. I'm not going to dwell on it. And we all know what happened to the driving instructor industry in 2020, 2021, and into 2022. So James and his team, I was still a serving officer. I had very little to do with it at this point. James and his team up in First Car used the opportunity to reimagine the Honest Truth at that point. And it'd been said for some time that the paper-based resources were they served a purpose. They had their uses. I know there are ADIs out there still using them and really like them. I'm sure their paper-based magazines are getting a little bit dogged now. And the decision was made to create an app, the Honest Truth app for ADIs. And that's exactly what happened. So during sort of the pandemic years, if you like, work was done to create the app. Leading industry experts were consulted around behaviour change techniques and looked at who to use to present them, because with the best will in the world, a young driver is unlikely to listen to an old crusty like me, whereas actually if they listen to somebody near their own age, they're far more likely to take that information on board. So the app was created based around 10 truths, the 10 truths of the Honest Truth. The fatal 5 that we all know, and then 5 additional truths which are important to young drivers. We are in the process of looking at 3 new ones at the moment. We are looking to create 3 new ones over the next couple of months, which will be amazing, which they'll be added into the app as an update. And then last year, James, or in fact, no, 2 years ago now, 2022, James heard that I was thinking of retiring, and he came to speak to me and he said, Olly, would you consider coming and doing some work for us? And I said, absolutely. What have you got in mind? And he said, I'd love you to pick up the Honest Truth and run with the Honest Truth. And I said, no brainer, absolute no brainer. So as soon as I retired last July, literally retired. It was Tuesday I retired, and by Wednesday morning I was on my way to Folkestone to start my new life. And it was literally, I had a 15-hour retirement. It was great. So I've now, since then, I've been working with ADI associations, with driving schools, with the ADI NJC, people like yourself, Josh, to promote the Honest Truth to driving instructors as a road safety campaign, a road safety package that can be delivered seamlessly within lessons, through the app. All the 10 truth videos contained on the app. All the pupils, all an ADI's pupils can be registered on the app, and they can be tracked through the 10 truths as well. So it's kind of a one-stop shop, road safety shop, if you like, for road safety portal for ADIs to use within a course of driving lessons. It's probably the easiest way to look at it.
Nice. So with that, how does that link to our driving lessons? Do we have access to the app so we can use it in the lessons? Do the students have access to an app linked to our account so they can use it outside of lessons? How does it all link together?
Okay, so really easy. So the ADI, the app has been designed to be ADI facing. It is an app designed for ADIs to deliver road safety in a course of driving lessons. And it's been designed in such a way, it's a really simple, straightforward platform that enables ADIs to track their pupils' progress through the 10 truths. Because actually, it might be that different pupils need different truths at different points in their driving journey. It might be you get, you know, young lad or a young lady, young lad or young lady, get into the car for their first lesson, and you spend your entire first lesson telling them to slow down. Well, actually, for them, the honest truth, speed truth, is the first one they're going to want to hear about. And they may want to revisit that during the course of lessons. You may get a new pupil join who is ridiculously nervous, and the last thing you want to do is tell them 10 ways they can kill themselves on the road, because you probably never see them again. So actually, it might be worth leaving it a couple of weeks and gently introducing the insurance truth, or one of the other truths that doesn't directly relate to death, destruction, and mayhem. All we ask is that all ADIs deliver all the truths to all their pupils. That's all we ask. So, I'll give you an example. Lady I was speaking to at the weekend and had a pupil in the car. And the pupil got into the car, and it was a young lady, and had asked, "Oh, which truth are we going to do today?" And they actually covered seatbelts. And that was absolutely great. And then they were busy driving along, having part of their lesson, and the instructor heard this young lady's phone vibrate in her pocket. And she was driving along, and she instinctively looked down to her pocket where the vibration was going on. And he went, So he said, "Okay, just let's drive along here, pull up somewhere safe." He said, "Okay, we're going to do a second truth today. Which one do you think is going to be?" Mobile phones. So actually, ADIs are also looking at opportunity to introduce a truth to be client specific. They might have a theme of the day, theme of the week. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. All we say is deliver all the truths to all the pupils. What the pupils will be getting very shortly is after they've had a truth delivered, within 24 hours, they will get an email from the Honest Truth with a link to the video and a whole lot of more information for them to read up about speed, read up about seatbelts, links to useful resources, behavior change techniques, practical things they can do around that truth. So the idea is that the truth should normally be introduced at the beginning of the lesson. So, beginning of the lesson, literally each video is no more than 2 minutes. And the longest one's about 2 minutes, 9 seconds, something like that. Play the truth for that topic of the lesson, seatbelts. And then ask any questions. It can be used as a point of debate during the lesson. It can be used as an opener to a conversation. Often as not, and I've had ADIs come back to me and said, "You'd be amazed at some of the confessions I'm getting as a result of them watching the truths. I'm getting, it's almost like a confessional in the car. My mate, my mate smokes cannabis and goes off and drives, or my mate does this, my mate does that." But it's getting to the point where young people are talking about these topics, which is really important. And then, the driving instructor, they might see a behaviour out on a lesson, somebody not wearing a seatbelt. Well, there you go, somebody not wearing a seatbelt. We've learned about that. Let's talk about the risks. Let's talk about if you're in a car, in the back of a car, and you've got two of your mates in the back of the car with you, you put your seatbelt on, and they're not, and they're not going to because it's not cool. Well, actually, they'll be the ones that go out the side windows, the back window, the front window in the event of a collision. Think about these things. So there's not, at the moment, there isn't a pupil interface on the Honest Truth app. Potentially in the future, that could be a future development, but we're very keen at the moment to really focus on working with ADIs to provide ADIs with the best quality product we can to enable them to deliver good quality, relevant road safety information as part of a course of driving lessons. That simple.
That's what I struggled with and still do with the students is the bigger picture. It's one thing teaching someone, this is a clutch, this is an accelerator, this makes the car go, this makes the car stop, this is a roundabout, this is a junction, there's your traffic lights, well done, you can drive. Because we know the risk when they go out, whether once they've passed or a few months after, or they're potentially out with a supervising driver while they're on a provisional license. And that's where I struggle. And whenever I see it on the news, there's been a serious accident on one of the local roads, I'm then glued to the TV because it's a concern. And being able to provide something for the students that can give that bigger picture and the statistics, because I don't have them. I'm an instructor. I've not got the 30 years experience that you've got on the front line, along with everyone else that you've managed to bring in to get all of that data. So that's going to allow us to deliver a more complete package, not just to the driving test, but getting through those first few years where they're at the most risk as an independent driver.
That's really interesting, Josh, and you are so right. At the end of the day, whenever I do an ADI presentation, I always ask, what is your job as an ADI? To make safe drivers for life. Well, yes, that's the DVSA answer. That's what you. Well, what's your job? At the end of the day, your job is to get a young driver to a DVSA standard as quickly and cheaply as possible. If you talk to the person who's paying for the lessons, let's be fair. Bottom line, let's be fair, let's be really, let's be brutal about this. It is about getting a pupil to be test ready, which is fine. And you say about traffic lights and roundabouts and junctions, and those mechanical skills of learning to drive are vitally important. They absolutely are. I don't disagree with that in the slightest. But as important are those life skills attached to those mechanical skills, which will keep them safe and keep their license long after you're not sat next to them. Because while you're sat next to them in the car, you as an ADI, you're that voice of conscience. I'd slow down in a minute. I'd probably think about that car in front slowing down a lot quicker than you are. All these things that you can intervene. You've got the dual controls. If it needs to be, you can take control of the vehicle. As soon as they're in their own vehicle, they haven't got you sat next to them as a voice of conscience. They've got to make all those decisions themselves. And if they're not prepared and equipped for that, and they're not aware of the risks that they face, and we know that young drivers don't understand the risks fully because their brain's not fully developed. It's not. It's a human biological thing. So what we want to try and do is to introduce these topics into lessons to enable a young driver who is coming towards to learn to drive to the DVSA test standard is for them to start thinking about some of these things in a slightly different way and understand the risks that they face in certain situations. So really, and Josh, it's going to be a little I'm going to be a little bit controversial now. Okay, a little bit controversial, but bear with me. So road safety is all about reducing KSIs. Okay, those that are killed and seriously injured, and I completely agree with that. Totally agree with that. And young drivers are disproportionately represented in the KSI figures when you look at the number that are killed and seriously injured opposed to the number of that make up that road user community. And that's common knowledge. Everybody knows that. However, the reality of a young driver being involved in a serious or fatal collision is relatively remote. It is relatively remote when you look at the numbers that are out. And young drivers know this. There's a slight air of it always happens to somebody else. No, never happened to me, it always happens to somebody else. I'll make this corner at 60, no problem at all. They don't think about it. What's far more likely with a young driver is they'll lose their license in the first 2 years of having it. And far more young drivers lose their license in the first 2 years of having it than ever get killed or seriously injured. Far more. Thousands lose their license. For example, 2 bald tyres, well, actually, license gone. 3 points for each, license gone. 1 mobile phone offence, license gone. 2 speeding offences, license gone. So there's no insurance or incorrect insurance, license gone. But there's countless ways that a young driver can lose their license. So for us, the honest truth is about reducing those horrendous stats of young drivers being killed and seriously injured, or passengers being killed and seriously injured. But it's as much about making them safe drivers so they keep their license long after passing their test, as well as their health and life. That's where, maybe we're a slight differentiator. We're not just focusing on the KSIs, we're focusing on holding to your license as well.
Again, staying on that topic. So yeah, as harsh as it is that people are dying, the KSI rate, and it's not good for young drivers. I think the keeping the license, losing the license, it's going to get them on board because, like you've said, the chance of that is quite high, and the amount of money it costs to get a license and the work and time and effort. Since we spoke before filming, when we had the initial chat, I've brought that up a lot more in conversation in lessons about the license opposed to the accident. And the response is the same, although the outcome, in my opinion, one's really bad and one's you shouldn't have been doing that. They're getting the same response from the students that, okay, maybe I do need to listen. So I think that's something that I've missed in talking to the youngsters is the probability of losing the license as well as the risk of driving.
And work so hard for that independence and that mobility to suddenly have that all taken away from you, to have to go right back to the square one again, is a massive step backwards, huge step backwards. And the likelihood, like I said, the likelihood of them falling into that trap is far greater than being involved in KSI, far greater.
Do they make up larger numbers? I'm going to throw a question at you here. Don't know whether you got the answer, but the losing the license proportionally, is it more youngsters that are falling into that trap? I know they've got the smaller window anyway, the 6 points instead of the 12, but are they at a greater risk of losing the license at the younger age?
I yes, they are, because they've only got to accumulate 6 points to lose it in the first 2 years. So it's half the number of points of anybody
Yeah.
else. But when you look at the proportion they make up of the road user community, I don't think they're disproportionately represented in losing their licenses. It's just because they can only accumulate 6 points, which means
Yeah.
that actually there's a much greater likelihood of losing their license in the first 2 years than there is, for the next 7, 6, 50, 60 years of having a license. So because you've got that 17 to first 2 years as opposed to the next 60 odd years potentially. Yeah, 60 years up to, could be even longer. So I can't imagine that they would be disproportionately represented in that particular instance. I don't know the figures. I don't know them off the top of my head. But just thinking about it logically in those two road user groups, I can't see that they would be.
So proportionally, it's the KSI rate for the youngsters that's out of proportion, and that's where
That's
the
the
greater
one.
risk is.
Yeah, that's when you look at the proportion of 17 to 24-year-olds as a proportion of road users, road user community. They are very much disproportionately represented in the KSI figures, the overall KSI figures. So that's where the disproportionateness. Somebody will tell us that's not a word. Disproportionateness comes from.
We're just going to go with that one. We'll stick with it. Listeners, I hope you know what we're on about. It's scary. And until I became an instructor, things like this was not a concern. And then I started getting the youngsters in the car, and you understand the risk. Obviously, I was 17, 18 and driving once, and I'll be honest enough, I can see why there's that risk at that age. And to try and affect just one person, because I got lucky when I was younger, and I don't want any of my students to have to get lucky. So it is a challenge, and it's great to see that there are projects out there like The Honest Truth that can integrate with our lessons from experts and people that have been on the front line and experienced it and know the potential outcome, opposed to me just telling a student the potential outcome, the possible outcome. So what's the plans for you and The Honest Truth going forward? I know you may have some more, but where would you like this to go?
So the immediate plans are that we've got 3 new truths in development, which are tyre safety, talking about two-ball tyres. So we've decided that tyre safety is at the end of the day, the only thing holding your car on the road are 4 pieces of rubber about the size of a postcard. That's it. So having the best tyres you can, and with the cost of living squeeze and things like that, is that tyres are starting to become ignored by a lot of people and young drivers as well. So tyre safety is going to be one. Vehicle maintenance, basic vehicle maintenance is going to be one, and then we're looking at choosing and buying your first car, because again we think, and we talk to people, and we said actually these are fairly critical safety topics for young drivers to think about when they get to the point. And it's almost that kind of continuing that journey up to and beyond the test, if you like. So they're thinking about buy my first car. Well, I need to think about some basic maintenance, and I need to know about the tyres and stuff like that. So that's kind of the short term stuff. Josh, you know what we'd like? We would like to be in a position where, when an ADI talks about road safety, the next words out of their mouth are The Honest Truth. That'd be amazing. That it becomes the standard road safety plugin for ADIs. That's where we'd like to be at the end of the day. A big ask, I know, a bit like Vision Zero. It's a big ask, but if you don't dream big, you never know.
So what can we do to help? As instructors, what can we do?
So, as instructors, the best way that you can help is to get involved, is to sign up to become an Honest Truth accredited ADI. Really straightforward process via the website. There's a Join Now button on the website on the homepage, and it's a really straightforward process to join up. Basically, single form. That form comes through. Then, depending on whether or not you need to set up a subscription, and I'm sure you're about to ask me about those in a moment. um, Whether it's a funded place or a self-funded, as we call it, for a subscription-based place, then as soon as that's sorted out, then you get access to the app. Very quick training package on the app. There's a little intro video and a little training video from me. Set 10 verification questions to make sure you haven't set the video running in contact with the cat or made a cup of tea. All the answers to the questions are in the videos. And then as soon as you've done that, you then straight into the dashboard of the app. You start delivering, adding pupils and start delivering those truths to them. Alongside the app, you also get from us 50 young driver guides from First Car, 50 parents guides from First Car that you give out to your pupils and their parents, 50 My Car, My Rules cards. So those young drivers, as they come towards test time, they can then set their own rules for their car. So the idea is they set their own ground rules right from the outset. A car sticker, which is just in the process of being redesigned for this year, and a free listing on the Honest Truth website. You can list yourself on the Honest Truth website, searchable by postcode, town, name, things like that. And then if you've got social media channels or websites and you want some graphics to promote your involvement in Honest Truth, absolutely no problem at all. You can have those as well. That's absolutely fine. So that's the package, if you like. And really easy to. In fact, Josh, I know, I'm going to say it before you do. I know you signed up very recently, so you'll know how easy it was to do that.
Yes, I wish I'd have signed up sooner. I've not, and here we are. So I'm looking forward to getting into it. And it was straightforward. I do have a question though. One of the guys asked, and I know you mentioned it then about the subscription. So the pricing at the minute, because obviously I don't know whether that will change, but as we're recording at the minute, I think as an individual, £7.50 a month for the
So
subscription.
individual ADI subscription is £7.50 per month. Set up a Go Carver subscription, happy days, no problem at all. However, if multiple members of an ADI association want to get involved, then the economies of scale bring that down. So, for example, if 20 members of an ADI association said, we'd really like to get involved in this, and we've got ADI associations that have done exactly that, that would bring the cost down to £5 per ADI per month. So straight away, you've got a 30%, over 33% saving. Same as small driving schools. So we've got a number of small driving schools that have signed up all their instructors from a small driving school. Exactly the same. Individual ADR subscription, £7.50 per month. 20 or more cars in a school, down to £5 a month for per car, that is. Details of all that are on the website as well, but if anybody wants to have a look at it. Now, that's for the self-funded side. Keep an eye out for anybody going to the ADI this year, because there may be a special offer. Who knows?
I should have waited.
Yeah, there is that. But we also have some areas that the local road safety partnership have very kindly funded a number of ADI places. Now, depending on where it is the number that we funded, but I do have some funded places left in all these areas I'm about to go through. Okay, some not very many. So if you're from one of these areas and you're interested, sign up now. When you do the form, you can pick an area. We've got the areas that are funded on the form. There's a drop down on the form on the website. All you do is select the area that you're delivering lessons in. Don't complete GoCardo subscription and come to me as a funded place. Get you set up, no problem at all. So those areas, Josh, are Devon, Cornwall, Avon, Somerset, Shropshire, Worcestershire, Herefordshire, Staffordshire, Warwickshire, Kent, and Norfolk at the moment. I am talking to a couple of other partnerships at the moment that I'd like to come on board. If we do get those to come on board and fund some ADIs, then details of those will go onto your Facebook page and they'll get added into on the web. The sign up form on the website will also get those added in, so we know when a registration comes in, says that they're delivering lessons in Staffordshire or Worcestershire, wherever it might be, actually we know that's a funded place. So those places are fully funded by the local authority. In the case of Devon and Cornwall, they're 50% funding, so they are subsidising, which means that actually an ADI in Devon and Cornwall can have the Honest Truth, full Honest Truth package for £3.75 a month. We always work out in cups of coffee for some reason. That's one coffee a month, Josh.
Yes. So I had a question from one of the viewers, and that was, how do we get the funding? Now, based on what you've said, is it your end that gets the funding, or is this something
Yeah.
as ADIs we can chase up to potentially get funding for our area?
Well, so yes. So basically, if I had enough ADIs in a new area, so say Wiltshire, let's talk about Wiltshire. You're Swindon based. Wiltshire is obvious place. So if we had a whole cluster of ADIs in Wiltshire that got together and said, actually, we really want to be part of this, I would then look to go to the Wiltshire Road Safety team and say, look, I've got a whole load of ADIs banging on the door, want to get involved in this. How about you consider funding or subsidising or that? So I can, but those conversations do take a bit of time. They're not overnight conversations. But I have got road safety partnerships, fortunately not Wiltshire at the moment, that are coming to us. So they're hearing about what we're doing and saying, oh, we've heard about Honest Truth from one of our colleagues. We'd like to know more about it. We'd like to get involved, kind of thing. I've got a couple on the kind of on the side burner. I'm just waiting to sort of hear how they want to proceed at the moment. So I would anticipate more areas will come on board during the year. That said, don't wait to see if your area comes on board. Get involved now. When your area does come on board, all that happens is you will automatically, if you're currently subscribing ADI in that area, let's keep Wiltshire because that's nice and easy, it's where you are. So if Wiltshire come on board, any ADIs in Wiltshire that are paying at this time, all that happens is your subscription gets stopped and you automatically go into a fully funded place. We can't say
Great. So
fair
we
enough.
might as well start now.
Absolutely, yeah. Delay not.
I love it. I'm looking forward to getting everything and starting to utilize it. It has been something that's been on my mind for a while, is how I get the bigger picture to the students. There's obviously things that we can do in the car, there's conversations that we can have. But like you say, sometimes it's not quite relatable when you've got someone that's got 10, 15, 20, 30 years driving experience, whatever it is, telling someone, oh, maybe you shouldn't go fast here because that's illegal. Is a 17-year-old going to listen? I think we need to be able to provide a lot more. And at least, even if they're not going to take it on, I've done my bit by providing it to the student.
Okay, Josh, look at it this way. And I say this, I pose this as a question to ADIs I speak to. So, if during the course of a year you teach 50 young people to drive, okay, keep the numbers nice and simple. You teach 50 young people to drive. And all those 50 young people, they all get the 10 truths. Each one of them gets the 10 truths. So you have delivered 500 road safety interventions over the course of that year, one-to-one road safety interventions. We couldn't dream of doing that. With the blue light services, the local authority couldn't dream of that. What we've done here is we've recognised the value of ADIs as a road safety professional and that relationship you have with your pupils. And we've capitalised on that with the Honest Truth. You are, to me, you are the most underutilised road safety resource out, without a shadow of a doubt, which is why we chose ADIs to work with, because we believe you're so underutilised. So those 500 one-to-one interventions. Now, if just one of those interventions with one of those students resonates and they take away one piece of information, as a result of which they don't get involved in a serious or fatal collision once they pass their test, have you, Josh Holloran, done your job?
Absolutely.
And that's exactly the right answer. 100%. Because that's one less family that are going to have a lifetime of heartache and pain and grief for losing a young person on the roads. So Vision Zero is amazing. Don't get me wrong, Vision Zero is a great thing to aim for. Okay, great thing to aim for. But actually, how about saving one life at a time? One life saved is brilliant. That's one less family that has to go through everything that families go through. And I know what they go through because I've met them and I've worked after collisions such as these ones we've been talking about. So it's not about saving every young driver on the road, it's about saving them one at a time. As ADIs, you are in a unique position to achieve that through delivery of good quality road safety within your lessons.
I'm looking forward to using it and working with you guys. It's something, like I say, that has been played on my mind how to achieve it. So yeah, and I think anyone that's listening, check out the website. We will put it in the description, but I think that's a great place to head to some questions for you that are right now not related to the honest truth. We'll maybe see where we end up after that.
Okay.
Um, but we'll get all the links, all the information. Your website's already it's on the homepage of the YouTube channel as well. So it'll be in the description
Oh,
and
amazing.
on the homepage of the YouTube channel. But what we're going to get onto now, if it's all right with you, is some tell me questions,
Of
if
course.
that works.
Yeah,
We'll see how we get on with these.
yeah.
So the first one then, can you tell me what car you would drive if it was the only car you could drive forever?
Aston Martin Vantage, V8 Vantage. No question.
No? Nice.
It's my dream car is an Aston Martin. Yeah, I'd love one.
Good answer. Can you tell me if you could deliver a driving lesson to anyone, who would it be?
Morgan Freeman.
Interesting.
That's because I think he's a fascinating bloke, an incredible actor, and I just love the ability to sit and talk to him for an hour.
That was my thought. And do you know what? You just want him talking for an hour, wouldn't you? You'd want to listen to him.
Yeah, just sit, listen to him for an hour. I'll be quite happy. Either him or David Attenborough, but I think Morgan Freeman for me is yeah. He's one of if I could meet anybody, it would be Morgan Freeman. I think he's amazing. Ever since I saw him in The Shawshank Redemption, I thought, what an incredible actor, and to boot, actually a really nice guy apparently as well.
That's a great answer. David Attenborough would be an interesting one. The issue is, I'm not sure I'd be awake after an hour's driving lesson.
Possibly, yes. He'd be pointing out all sorts of flora, fauna, and animals to you. It'd be amazing. It'd be like a safari.
Some great answers there. So the next one, can you tell me the best advice you ever received?
Oh, that's a tricky one because I've received all sorts of advice over the years. Some great, some not so great, some downright ropey. But one of the bits of advice, and it's a bit of advice that I still use now. In fact, I was talking to somebody the other day and actually gave them this very piece of advice. And it was while I was doing a fairly hefty project as a serving officer. Again, not for this topic, but it was also body worn video, policing and body worn video. And a colleague of mine said to me, he saw me one day, and I was feeling a bit stressed, and I said, yeah. So we had a copy in a chat, and he said, Ollie said, there is no point climbing a mountain unless very occasionally you turn around and take in the view. And I really like that. I really like that. I thought, actually, it's all very well looking at the peak of the mountain. That's where you're heading. You're heading to that peak. But what's the point of heading to the peak if you just don't stop occasionally and take in the view from where you've got to?
I like that. I've never heard that before, but
Yeah.
that's a
I,
fascinating take on it.
I like that. And the other one I like as well, along with some sort of lines, and again, thinking about when you're doing large pieces of work, is if you're going to eat an elephant, don't do it in one bite. You'll choke to death. You're going to eat an elephant, take it in small pieces. You'll get there eventually, and you will consume the whole elephant. Just don't try and do it in one bite. So when it comes to large pieces of work, again, that's something I always think about in the back of the mind.
Some great advice there. So the next one, can you tell me your favorite book?
Favorite book?
Yeah.
Ooh. See, I get into series of books. Unfortunately, I'll get into a series, and of late, the last few years, I've got into the Lee Child Jack Reacher series, and I've
Okay.
been fairly hooked into reading it. The trouble I've got is that I started Jack Reacher, I started Lee Child, one of the new Jack Reacher books, and I won't put it down till it's finished. And it will take me about 36 hours to read the entire book. I'll do nothing for the best part of nothing for 36 hours than read. So I had to be a little bit sort of careful about when I start a book like that. You know, I tend to take two or three on holiday, and I'll easily get through three books on a week's holiday, no problem at all. But as far as a single book goes, see, that's really difficult. A single book. Um, yeah, because ones I read, I tend to find they're parts of series. rather than a single volume of stuff. I'm trying to think the last single book I read that wasn't part of a bigger series. So yeah, it's gonna have to be like I say, the Lee Child series is brilliant. And in fact, the last one I read, so it's his most recent one called I think was it called The Secret? That was brilliant. That was probably one of the best I've read. Really, really good. I think that's the most recent one he's put out as well. I'm sure it's called The Secret.
Nice. So good answer there. You're into your series of books and Jack Reacher at the minute.
Yeah.
Nice. So these now, um, I'm going to ask you anyway. They're more instructor related, I think. But the first one, can you give me a message to, or can you give me one message that you would give to someone that's thinking of becoming a driving instructor?
I think the thing with that is the that's the same answer for anybody who's thinking about doing anything. So it does relate to somebody thinking about becoming a driving instructor. Now, I couldn't become a driving instructor. Okay, I'll tell you that now. I could not do it. I speak to driving instructors, and the thought of a 17-year-old trying to kill me at every corner they go round is something that my nervous system just wouldn't take. It just wouldn't take it. So I have a huge amount of respect for anybody that does get into that world. But I do know also it can be a phenomenally rewarding world as well, and a phenomenally rewarding career when you see that young person develop from somebody who kangaroos up the road on their first lesson to seeing them with that test pass certificate in their hand, however many weeks or months later. So I think for me, the only piece of advice I would give anybody, we'll talk driving instructor, somebody who become a driving instructor, if you've got the right passion, follow your dream. If that's your dream, that's your passion, then follow it. And don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. I had people tell me I couldn't do it when I was younger. No, you'll never do that. You never do that. So I became really belligerent and really, I was like, I'm going to show you that actually I can do this. And I did it for 30 years.
Nice. So you had a 30-year career out of just proving everyone wrong.
Some people wrong, yes. The downside of that, it can become quite obsessive and it can become an obsession to prove people wrong. But there were a not for this conversation, but there were a number of people who should have known better, who didn't think I would make anything of myself, particularly in public service. So I spent the next 30 years proving them wrong, basically.
Well done
Just
to
to be
you.
really
And
awkward.
yeah.
The well most awkward 52-year-old.
Yeah, fair play to you for achieving it. We've got another question then. And this one, I'm interested. I'm looking forward to seeing your answer to this one, actually. Can you give me one piece of advice that you would give to someone before they go for their driving test?
This is probably a piece of advice that I'm sure all ADIs will give people who are heading to their test is don't think of it as a test, think of it as another driving lesson. It's just another drive. It's nothing more than that. Just another drive. And also, you wouldn't be going for your test if you weren't test ready. You know you can do it. You know you can do it. Treat it as just another drive. Forget that really grumpy examiner sat next to you. Just forget about it.
Nice. And can you tell me something you wish you were better at?
Listening to my own advice.
Nice.
That's a guy thing. We're all right. It's sometimes all right giving advice out to friends and stuff like that, but we never take our own advice. We're the world's worst at taking our own advice.
That's funny. I'm not gonna, in fact, yeah, I can, because when this goes out, the episode that I filmed a few days ago, that was the exact same answer that they gave. Yeah, we're great at it, aren't we?
No, we're really not.
So the last question is, do you have any final messages and where would you like to send people? This is where you can sell, promote, whatever you want.
So, yes, basically, with regards to the honest truth, people shouldn't be asking themselves, why would I want to get involved in this? They should be asking themselves, why aren't I involved in this? Easy thing to do is go to the website. There's a join now button on the website, really obvious on the front page. Click that. It's a really straightforward process. If you want to learn more about it, there is a video, a minute or so's video, just gives a very brief explanation of the honest truth. Or if people want to get a bit more information, just email through the website, the expression of interest, come through to me. I'll pick it up from there. And if they've got any queries or questions, then absolutely come to me and we'll resolve them. But what we just want to see is more and more ADIs delivering the honest truth to their pupils so that we know, we start to build this honest truth community of ADIs, which we're building really nicely now. We just like to add more to it, that's all. So that it does become road safety. The road safety plugin for ADIs becomes the honest truth. There are other plugins for ADIs out there that are, in the industry standard. We want to be the industry standard for road safety for ADIs in this country. That simple.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes and getting set up and delivering it to my students as well. So anyone that's listening will hopefully get on, sign up, and you'll be seeing some more people in your inbox. But Olly,
Amazing.
thank you very much for your time tonight. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Some great information. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Josh, thank you so much for inviting me to be on the podcast. Absolutely brilliant. Really love stuff like this. I think it's amazing, and it's a really good opportunity, to be able to get, the message of what we're doing out there. And a huge thanks to you personally, because actually, without people like you, and I know there are others out there doing similar, without people like you, it doesn't give people like me a platform to be able to talk about these things, really. So, for me, huge thanks out there as well. Thank you, Josh.
No problem at all. Thank you very much.